Brooke.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie. How many here have suffered a significant personal loss in your life? Everywhere I speak, it's usually about 90% of the room. It doesn't matter the age or the makeup of the individuals involved. September 29th, 1998, it was a Tuesday. I woke up about 6:30 and I looked over to my right in bed and my wife wasn't there. And I thought, that's strange. I wonder where Dana is. And right then, Connor, who's 4 years old, comes running in. Where's Mom? I don't know. And we get out of bed. Well, let's go find her. Like I said, he's just a little over 4 years old. Kyle comes in. Kyle's 14, one of my two sons. We don't know where she is. So we look in a couple of the rooms, and we look in the office little area and so forth. And we go downstairs, and we look downstairs, and I can see her down in front of the washer and dryer, and she's face down in front of the washer and dryer. She's all kind of scrunched over. So we go running down there, and I flip her over, and there's stuff coming out of her mouth, and it's not a pretty scene. Connor starts crying hysterically. I said, Kyle, get upstairs, call the police. And within a matter of 5 or 10 minutes, there was probably 25 people in our house. And it was fire and medic and police and all these different people. And they pull her out into the rec room, and they've got these paddles and wires and tubes and all this kind of stuff, and it's the most surreal thing I've ever been through. You don't know if it's actually real or if it's actually a dream or more specifically a nightmare. So for those of you, and again, it depends on the size of the audience. I always know there's a significant amount of the people that I'm talking to that have gone through something very similar. I just happen to be the person that's up front talking about it and how I dealt with it. But time loses all measure. And all of a sudden, minutes are just, it's all out of whack because you're in shock. And the little fire person comes over to me and she says, Mr. Brooke, we've been working on your wife for an hour and a half, and there's no heartbeat. Would you like us to continue? And I remember thinking, even in shock at that very moment, I never before in my life had been in the position of having to make a life and death decision for somebody else. And I said, no, you can stop. And she was dead. And I realized shock usually lasts for about 2 or 3 days, it seems like. It's the body's way of trying to, and here we are in a mental health facility, the body has all these interesting things that it does to try to protect us. But I walked up to the little deck we had on the back of the house about 2 or 3 days later, and I kind of looked up at the sky, and really for the first time in my life, I realized why people kill themselves. I thought, I don't know if I can do this. But I made a pact right then. Connor, as I said, was 4, Kyle was 14. I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to do it. They've already lost their mother, and I'm going to stick around. I'm going to raise these 2 boys. And what made it really challenging for me, and this is the path that I took to gratitude, which I'll be talking about primarily here in a few minutes, is that I had experienced so many other losses as well. My mother had contracted cancer and died. My father, they'd been divorced, was a very prominent attorney in Seattle, and he chose to commit suicide one day with a shotgun. In fact, my sister-in-law is right down here at the what's the one, Tony, down here, the Washington National, is that cemetery you and I were talking about? Carolyn's buried down there. My 2 best friends were killed the night I graduated from high school. And it just went on and on and on. I lost a number of friends in Vietnam. And I just thought, I'm going to have to figure something out. Because there's a couple of times I just went like this. Like, I'm just flesh. I don't know how people do it. I just some bone and some cartilage and things like that. I'm just a guy trying to get through this world, and I'm going to have to figure it out. But I realized a lot of it comes down to how you choose to look at something. Each one of you folks looking at me, we each have this little body and this brain and this little CPU up here called our brain, and you have to decide how you're going to deal with it. But more specifically, you have to decide how you're going to look at it. And that's your choice, because we all have freedom and choice. So I'd like you just for a second to all stand, if you would. I'm not going to make anybody come up front and speak, so don't get panicky, but just raise your right hand and just start turning in a clockwise direction, if you will. It gives you a good stretch as well. Now, if anybody's concerned, here, I'll show you a watch. Clock is this way. Goes that way. Keep turning in a clockwise.
You're backwards.
I know, I'm turning around. So make sure, is everybody going clockwise? All right, good. Yeah, you're always contrary. Anyway, so keep it going clockwise. Start bringing it down. Keep it going clockwise. Get it about to your eyes, your chin, your chest. And now about your stomach. Now which direction is it going? How did that happen? Okay, you can sit down. And there's always somebody that goes, I didn't change. I kept it going the same direction. Well, it's my way of explaining to people that it's all how you look at it. And I think one of the things that I realized too is that as I used to manage Nordstrom stores and more recently Lowe's stores, and I quit year and a half ago to pursue this full time. I was talking to Tony a lot about grief and helping people, helping overstressed people, people that have experienced grief and can't handle it and are making really, really poor choices when it comes to coping mechanisms. But I realize there's something about this 1 in 20. It seems like I can tell 20 people to do something and one person will be the person that does it. And I started thinking, well, are we kind of the one or are you one of the 19? And I thought I'm going to have to figure out a way to not give up. And so as I started to raise Connor and Kyle on my own and dealt with my grief, and again, Tony and I was really glad to meet Tony. We were talking about this earlier when I first arrived. But you've got to make this choice how you're going to deal with this. Well, to complicate matters, Dana had been hooked on prescription medication. And that's what did her in. She's 38 years old. Tall, really pretty. Our first date was running Green Lake. And it wasn't a cup of coffee or a beer. It was running Green Lake. So I decided I'm going to have to push forward on this thing, and I'm just going to have to do the best I can. Well, in the process, not only had I suffered all that loss, I lost my house, my business, and all our money. And we had to move in with a friend of ours. And I remember Connor and I sleeping on this little skinny mattress pad thing because the couch that my friend had was one of these that went backwards, and I kept squishing Connor because I kept rolling into it like a rolling pin or something. But I thought, that's okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to bounce back from this. Now, I'll figure out a vehicle at some point, but I'm going to do it. And I think that's when you decide whether it takes as long as it takes or whether you're going to do it or you never give up. These videos I do them every Monday. I do one every day, but I send out a featured video every Monday at 7:45 on gratitude. One of the most popular ones I got recently was in honor of Winston Churchill. Don't ever, 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 ever give up. And you can't. So here's Connor, who's 4 years old, and he's struggling. So he's in kindergarten. I take him in to be assessed because they said your kid screwed up. So I went through 8 hours of tests with him, and they had balls, and they were bouncing it, and fine motor, and gross motor, and occupational therapy, and all this kind of thing. And at the end of the day, they said, have Connor wait out in the lobby. I came walking in. These 2 gals were talking to me. They said, your son's messed up. It's going to be a tough journey. I said, well, his mother just died 6 months ago. Yeah, I know. We get it. And they were really kind of cold. And they suggested all this treatment that I'm going to go through, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, but that's okay. So I said, we live by Green Lake, as I mentioned. And so I said, well, I was a pretty good athlete. When he goes to Roosevelt High School, he's going to be the starting quarterback. They go, they both started laughing. And they say, he's not going to be any quarterback. He's not even going to play sports. And so I leave and walk out to the car, and I burst into tears. I can't stop crying. I drive home a couple miles, and Connor goes, what's wrong, Daddy? I'm not going to tell him. So over the years that went through, as if we hadn't suffered enough, not only personally, but financially we lost everything because of the medication deal. All the money was gone. I read something the other day. You go to the east side in one of those papers, these houses get burglarized. The cops come in, the laptop, the TVs, everything's still there. Even money is there, but the medicine cabinets are raided. All the medicines are gone. That's what's happened with prescription medication. It's a huge, huge problem. So as we're going along, I'm thinking, maybe these people were right. Connor goes, I want to play baseball. You tried all these different sports. Now my question is, whether you're a good athlete or not, when you're playing t-ball, have you noticed the ball, it just sits right here. How do you miss it? It's just on the tee. And Connor would hit the tee and the ball would bounce off and then he'd swing up here. Like, Connor, the ball, it's sitting right here. It's not even moving like someday from a pitcher. But he stuck with it. Stuck with it over and over again. And so I realized that I got to be the person that sets that example about not giving up. It doesn't matter what it is. And I don't care what story or metaphor I use for him, I've got to be there to support him. So he kept trying and trying, but he'd strike out. Couldn't run, couldn't hit, couldn't throw, couldn't catch. And he'd go walking back into the dugout, put his face into the corner, just start crying. And for those of you that have children, I'm sure there's a significant portion of you here that have children, grandchildren, all the things that we talked about. But I was always in the stands watching them. And then we get to May 31st, 2005. It's a Little League game, and it's the bottom of the 7th inning. The team is down 7-6. Connor, of course, is still struggling. And there's 2 outs. And there's guys on second and third. Guess who comes out of the dugout? Come up to the plate. So, of course, I do what's only logical. How about a walk? Hit by a pitch. Just anything, please. I'm just doing this. So, ball 1, ball 2, strike 1, strike 2, full count. Next pitch comes in. Connor rips it down the third baseline. goes just inside the bag. The guy from third comes in and scores. The guy from second rounds third, he's coming. Here comes the ball, here comes the guy, the catcher. All three of them hit at the plate. The guy catches the ball, they crash, the ball pops out. And they win the game 8-7. And I watched this, I can see it like 2 seconds ago, that this entire dugout goes out, puts Connor on their shoulders, carries him off the field. And even to this day, 9-10 years later, I still have a hard time talking about it because how emotional I was. And all of us that have children want the best for our children. And I couldn't talk for an hour, a half hour, 90 minutes, whatever. But we got home and I sat him down on the bed and I said, Connor, it was never about baseball. It was the fact that you never gave up. You never, ever, ever gave up. And now, Connor is the starting center fielder on his team, one of the best players. And he's the leadoff hitter after all these years. And he just graduated from Bothell High School yesterday with Ronnie, a very close friend of Connor's who helps me out on my talks. And of course, I couldn't be prouder. But the big thing was that he never gave up. But what I realized is that I was going to have some vehicle as his dad, the one that set the example. And I'm very proud. I've run these Nordstrom's and Lowe's stores and all these things, and there's nothing I'm prouder of than being a dad. And Connor, at 6'2", I don't know how much he weighs, but here's his little graduation announcement. And just a great kid. He's going down to San Diego for school in about a month, and I'm going to be devastated with my son leaving, but I will do the best I can. After all this, has set this great example about why you don't give up and how you hang in there. And so I realized that I can't confide in him. I've got to set this good example. So a buddy of mine says to me one day, you need to get a gratitude journal. Now, how many people have ever heard of a gratitude journal? That's more than most. How many have heard of just a daily journal? Even better. How many have ever even seen a journal? And you think, so all of you. So you know, so that's neat because a lot of people don't. And so what do? I get it. I go to Amazon. I do what everybody does. It seems like I'm just as hypocritical as the next. I get an order. I put it on the shelf. I don't touch it for 3 months. But then I take it off one day and I start writing in it. And that was one from The Secret. I just Googled or got on Amazon, got the one that was the first one that popped up. And I started writing in it. And I noticed amazing results started happening in my life. And this is how I'm going to continue to raise Connor and raise Kyle and keep having to go to work and deal with all this stuff. The financial aspect was devastating because of the loss of the business I had, the house, everything because of this medication and all the money that had disappeared. So then one day, I thought I'm going to make my own. So I got the Brooker's Daily Gratitude Journal. Now I've done some other books that Julie mentioned and I'll mention too, but this is just a journal I write in every day. And I watched what happened to me. And I watched how it transformed me and really, really put such a positive spin on what's going out there. This is a negative thing out here. It's tough. People have a tough time. Life is very stressful. And it's so easy to be negative. It's so easy to buy. You turn on the news. What's the first 5-10 minutes, if not the entire 30 minutes? So what I'd like to do is I want to do a little exercise. So Ronnie, if you can grab those. But before I do that, it's going to take like 2 minutes. I would like to talk about something that I've done in this journal. It's called the Daily Number. Now, this is the gratitude journal that I do. And on the left-hand side, it says day, date, daily number, current events, I'm so grateful for, and my highlight of the day. And then the right-hand side is my gratitude intentions. And that's what you're going to be grateful for. But what I want to do before, you're getting a kind of a copy of the left-hand side. But before I do that, I'm very passionate about this daily number thing I kind of came up with. 10 is the best day of your life. 1 is a day you don't want to talk about. It's a struggle. So I want you all to think about what your number is for today. We're not going to do halves, but I just think that I've got 6.25. I've gotten that before. But I just want you to think about what your daily number is today. Personally, financially, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. You take that whole world that you live in. The Rudys of the world, the Tonys of the world, the Brians of the world, the Julies of the world. Those are some of the names I remember so far. What is your number? Okay? So, if you're a 1 to a 5, I don't want you to raise your hand because I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But just by a show of hands, how many people think they're a 6? Okay, a couple. All right, how many people think they're a 7? Okay, 2 or 3 more. 8. Excellent. And how about a 9? And any 10s? Wow, fantastic. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Take a look at this little sheet, and what I'd like you to do, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I'd like you to do 2 things. where it says the daily number, don't worry about that in the current events. And does everybody have a pen, by the way? Because did you get pens? Oh, perfect. I would like you to write down 1 or 2 or 3 things you're grateful for. And at the bottom where it says the highlight of your day. Now this is roughly noon, 1 o'clock. So it may be yesterday. What was the best thing that happened to you this morning or maybe yesterday? You can only pick one thing. What was the highlight of your day? So 2 or 3 things you're grateful for, and then the highlight of your day, and I'll give you 2 minutes, and you can start right now. Okay, 1 minute down, about a minute to go. Oh, don't worry about
okay.
that. Yeah. Okay, about 15 seconds more. Okay, time is up, 2 minutes. So who would like to share something they're grateful for? No pressure, but anybody would like to share what they're grateful for? Yes, Miss 10, I love that. What's your first name?
Kathy.
Kathy, good job, Kathy.
My family.
Fantastic. Really, really critical. Yes, sir.
My health.
That is, generally, those two are number 1 and 2 and 2 and 1, because boy, without your health and without your family, sometimes it's just,
I had that on the list.
yeah, it's really critical. Anybody else? Any others? Tony?
I had both of those, but I also have music, which is something that keeps me.
Julie mentioned a comment, and I appreciate that when she started out with the gratitude guy here speaking. I've got to have some gratitude quotes and things. And I've actually, with this video, I've got almost 300. And there's so many things that just pop in my mind. One day it was just the furnace because it was cold out. I'm so thankful for my furnace and so grateful. I was nice and toasty. And I actually had people come up to me in a pretty regular, I saw your videos. How do you think of a new topic every day? I go, is it just a short list? And I've run, the Brooker's not doing gratitude journal videos anymore. I've run out of things to be grateful for. I just don't see how that's going to happen. Highlight of your day, I think, is something very, very important because, again, I point to that out there as the outside world. It's such a negative world. Gosh, my dad, the one that committed suicide, yes, he was a very prominent attorney, but he was also so negative. I go, good morning, Dad. He'd go, what's good about it? Oh, thanks, Dad. Thanks for setting a nice example for the 5 of us. Gosh, and then these guys wouldn't pay their bills. Everybody's deadbeats out there. I'd never even heard that word when I was growing up, deadbeats. But highlight of my day. What a great thing to look at either this morning or yesterday to think, what is the highlight? What's the best thing that happened to you? Anybody want to share that from yesterday? Tony.
For today, the highlight is Rotary so far.
Good job. Thank you, sir. Brian.
Taking my kids to school.
Excellent.
Enjoy talking to them on the way. It's always kind of a fun time.
Tremendous. Anything with kids. Did you have your hand up? Yes.
My mother, sister, and nephew flew into town.
Excellent. Nice. Yes, sir.
I got to last night eat really terrible Kentucky Fried Chicken with my daughter, who I didn't have last year.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Stepping on the scale and realizing I lost another 2 pounds.
Good for you. Congratulations. Good job. Yes.
An unexpected visit from two of our gay friends who are leaving Washington and moving to Hawaii. They squeezed another visit in just before.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Any others? I want to miss me. Rudy.
Sponsoring a drug prevention program for middle-aged students, middle school students this morning, so they're going away.
Excellent. Excellent. And when you can impact a life, just one life on any given day. When I met Tony and he hands me American Grief Society, I said, oh boy, we got to talk. You know, because I get to schools now and it's just the best when you can get somebody, catch them early. And after I watch what happened to Dana. One of the things, Dana was 38, as I mentioned. One of the best things, if it's possible to say best with somebody's death, is somebody looked at me one day and they said, you know, nobody would ask to have what happened to Dana, to have happened to themselves. And I've never been addicted to anything, you know, knock on wood, so I'm fortunate. But I'm sure it's not easy, to say the least. Yes, sir.
2 days ago, I watched my son's baseball team win the championship.
Oh, my goodness. It's interesting. That is fantastic. With that same field where I watched Connor hit that game-winning hit, I remember, and I mean this seriously, somebody could come up and write me a check for $1 million to say, we need you to go over somewhere else, and I'd say, I'll pass. I'm in that stand, and I still couldn't understand it. 15 kids on the team, that's 30 parents, and there was always about 7 or 8 of us, 9, 10. Where's the rest of these parents? I never quite understood it, but you know what? I was going to be the absolute best parent I could. So, all right, so just by way of an example now, so you've done this exercise, so let's go back and do this again. 1 to 5, I'm not going to worry about. How many 6s? Okay, how many 7s now? How about 8s? And 9s? And 10s? Yeah, a little improvement. A lot of times it just all depends. The whole thing is it reframes and refocuses your mind into the positiveness that's going on in your head. And whether, it doesn't matter if it's watching a son's baseball game, my family, my health, whatever it might be, it just is amazing because we are just bombarded with negativity. And one of the reasons why I've had people, I always videotape my talks and I try to critique them and get better, and I speak to a groups 2 or 3 times a week now. And somebody once said to me, you know, you tell quite a few stories about your life, and we don't really care as much about you. And I go, well, here, what I'm trying to do is, so this is what happened to me. I'm not teaching out of some book. These are the examples that happened to me where I could see why somebody went and stepped off a bridge. I want people to know that I'm speaking from the heart. In fact, one of the things I talk about in the gratitude journal is if you think about it, it's like a dream. If you talk about it, it inspires you. But if you write about it, it empowers you. And I sell a lot of these journals. I've got some books to sell for those that are interested when I'm done, and I'm going to give away a book here in a second. But there's something about this CPU. The thought starts up here, but the feeling in our life comes through our heart. It goes to your arm, to your hand, to the pen, to the paper, and you can go back and look at it later and see, I'm so grateful that Julie invited me here today. There's all these things you can refer back. Why am I a 9 today and a 6 the other day? Figure out what I did that day, maybe it would get me back towards a 9, or whatever it might be. But today's generation, which we have a couple representatives of today's generation, Ronnie and the young man in the back. So, of course, to address them, I now have a Gratitude Journal app. But frankly, without getting into anybody's age here, if you're not under 30, you can't get it. You have to do the journal. But it's just that you just tap on it. I'm so grateful Julie Olson invited me to the Rotary in Burien today, and it just types it up. And you just hit and it saves it. So that's for the next generation. So what I do, wrap up. Don't you all think Tony should be a stand-up comedian? I tell you, I've never seen so many one-liners since Seinfeld. Maybe he is. So what I do a lot of workshops, which are 90 minutes to 2 hours. Teachers unions, and I'm doing Children's Hospital next week and so forth. And I always break it down into 5 modules. The first one is embracing gratitude. Now everybody's not going to get it, but I like to stand in front of people and show them what I've been through and how I've saved myself and changed my life and really done it through a very, very positive, healthy coping mechanism in this world of, again, so many negative ones. So many people I've lost to pills and to booze and to DUI. It's just tragic. And I'm going to show people there is a healthy way that can make such a huge difference in your life. The next thing is never give up. There's the Walt Disneys and the Sylvester Stallones and Colonel Sanders. These guys went to 200 and 300 banks to get financing for their projects, Disneyland and KFC and so forth. Never gave up, and look at the success they've had. I do a neat exercise on the second module called Cleaning Out Your Brain, where I pass out some paper and we write some things from our past. about you need to get that junk out of here. And by the way, when you go out and get in your cars today, notice the size of the windshield. It's about 2 feet deep, roughly, and it's about 4 feet wide. That's what you're looking at, right, going out for. Now, have you noticed the size of the rearview mirror? It's about this big. So keep it in proportion that way. It's kind of like the 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. You can never learn when you're talking. Of course, I'm sitting here talking. But anyway. But the point is that you got to clean out that brain. Then the next is the gratitude journal. And then the last thing is sharing gratitude, which I'll get to in a minute. But what I would like to do at this point is I'd like to have everybody take out a card, one of your cards. And I'm going to do a drawing for a book. And this is... And if you have a business card, great. If you don't, I've distributed my little flyer and my business card. So if you don't have a business card, put your name on it. But I would like to ask, I do send out a video, as I mentioned, on YouTube I do it every day, but then I send out a featured one on Monday, which is my favorite one from the week, to kind of get the week started off. If you want to get that video, great. If you don't, put an X on your card, because I don't want to email anybody that doesn't want to get one of my videos, because I don't like to spam anything. And then the second thing is I also do coaching. And a lot of people have asked me over time, well, how did you get from where you are then to where you are today? And I had some good coaches along the way. So I've put together a program where I do coaching. So if anybody's interested in a complimentary coaching consultation I do for about 45 minutes, just put a C on your card, and I will follow up with you. The biggest thing that I notice is that I don't know what really people expect from somebody when you've had a lot of tough times like I have. People come up to me all the time and you go, you look okay. And you actually dress pretty well. And I go, well, can I ask, should I just look like crap and just come in crying? Which one's the gratitude guy? It's the guy in the corner crying, because obviously he's had a tough time. And you got to get back up on the horse sometimes and put the car in drive and get going again. And sometimes it just takes time. And that's why I'm so interested in talking to Tony about some of the things he's doing at the Grief Academy. So go ahead and put your cards into the basket, and then we will draw for this book. So this book is called Happiness Starts with Gratitude. It's 50 gratitude lessons to direct, inspire, and empower you. And I will tell you, I have no false sense of modesty or importance or whatever, because every time I always try to give away 1 or 2 depending on the size. Oh, I grabbed this is the school edition. Sorry, the font's a bit big. Don't feel offended. You won't need your reading glasses. See Spot Run. See Dick Run. Sorry, this is the...
Remember C-Spot.
Yeah. So as I'm coming up with these video names or video titles for Ronnie, I'm going to have you grab one. So just hang over here a second. And as I come up with these different titles, one day was confidence and humility. It's great to be confident, but you also want to be humble. And with all the junk that I've dealt with, I understand humility. And I know that sometimes it's just about getting to tomorrow. And that's why that gratitude journal is so powerful. So last week, a lady comes up, and congratulations, you've won the book. I pull out her card. And it's a group of about 60 or 70 people. And I said, if you'd like, I can sign it. She goes, that's okay. So I go, well, listen, John Grisham's at Barnes & Noble. I think he's down on the side there. But anyway, so, okay, so will you pick out a card, Miss Ronnie?
You should just sign it first.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like Kathy Reed.
Kathy Reed, the 10.
10. Oh my God.
Could you hand that to Kathy, please? All right.
She'll have to share that with somebody.
Geez, no wonder in the 10.
You want to sign? You want to sign?
I'll just, Kathy, if you don't, I'll just leave right now. I'll be done. Lastly, and then I'm going to say one last thing and I'll wrap up. I do have the flyers that I put in front of you that talk about what I speak about. I also have the cards. I'm very, very grateful for anybody that refers me. Most of these talks I do for free. I was telling Tony that I've started to charge for a lot more when I get into businesses. But I started this about a year ago when I walked away from Lowe's. And you make a lot of money running a Lowe's store. And but nothing has ever impacted me like this. When you can change a life, when you can watch people come up in tears and give you a hug and say, I love the point you said about this, there's nothing more valuable. And again, it's just meeting Tony was really cool because people that deal with grief. And it's when the person passes away, it's tough enough, but it's that point forward, going forward, they go forward without him, where so much of the help is needed. And so I'm very, very passionate about that. So the last thing is when you get something you're excited about, you want to share it. And we know that sharing is really what it's about. What is Rotary's motto? Service above self. It's not about us, it's about out there. And, excuse me, and when you watch Connor coming in on that hit, watching how well Kyle and Connor have done, watching the people I've been able to change their lives, I really realize it's the sharing piece that's really where the benefit is. And I'll give you a quick example. I've been a pilot for a lot of years. And I was flying down in Ocean Shores, and I got, for those that know, Between Clouds, which is IFR, and I'm a VFR pilot. I had some IFR, but I wasn't supposed to be between clouds. And I'm flying along the beach, and all of a sudden I'm in between layers, and I can't see, and just barely. And the sun comes in and just hits the clouds, and it's like this kaleidoscope of color. And I'm going about 150 knots, so I'm moving along. And the clouds are above and below with these colors, just bam, 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 like this. And it was like out of 2001, A Space Odyssey. There was a scene in the center of that. And I've just got this yoke, and I'm just hanging on for dear life. I just can't believe what I've seen. And so it's like, it must go on for 30 or 40 seconds. It felt like maybe 5 minutes. And then bam, I'm out of it. And out, and here's the sand, and here's the ocean, and I can see the sun coming out. I go, whoa. And I turned to my right and went, is that not the most incredible? Did you see the colors that it... I was flying by myself, talking to myself. But I realized later, nobody ever gets to know that. You can only imagine what I saw, but nobody was ever going to be there to share what I got to see. And when you think about those of you that have people that you're close with in your life, and I'm assuming that's everybody, and you get to share those stories, be around family, be appreciative of your health, it just enhances the experience so much. And again, that's why I'm such a big fan of Rotary, too. Actually a member of Seattle number 4, downtown. But I will tell you, gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, it can transform your life, it can change your life, it can improve your life, and in my case, I feel it really saved my life. It can save you guys' too. Thank you so much.